Why does God choose the people we least expect, the weak, the overlooked, the unqualified, to change the course of history? It's a strange and fascinating question when you think about it. Imagine being Moses, who could barely speak in front of others, yet was chosen to lead a nation out of slavery. Or David, a small shepherd boy who was selected to defeat a giant and become a king. And then there's Mary, a young girl from an ordinary town, chosen to carry the Savior of the world. Why would God do this? What is it about these seemingly weak individuals that make them the perfect choice for God's plans? That's what we're going to explore today. And trust me, it's a powerful message you don't want to miss. Before we jump in, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join City on a Mountain for more content that dives deep into life's biggest questions with a fresh perspective, a divine pattern in history. Throughout history, God consistently chooses people who appear weak or unqualified by human standards to carry out monumental tasks. It's as if God deliberately looks for those society would never pick. Let's reflect on a few examples to illustrate this divine pattern. Moses, perhaps one of the most well-known leaders in the Bible, yet he initially refused God's calling because of his lack of speaking ability. He wasn't a natural-born leader in his own eyes. In fact, he flat out told God to find someone else. Yet, he was chosen to confront Pharaoh and lead an entire nation out of slavery. David, just a shepherd boy when he was called by God. His own father didn't even consider him when the prophet Samuel came looking for the next king of Israel. But David, despite being young and inexperienced, was the one who defeated Goliath, the feared giant, and later became Israel's greatest king. Mary, a young girl likely in her teens from a small town. If you were choosing someone to bring the Savior into the world, you'd probably pick someone more prominent, right? Yet, God chose Mary, someone humble and seemingly insignificant, to be the mother of Jesus. These examples show a deliberate choice by God to work through those whom the world would often overlook. But why? What is the logic behind this? One might ask, if God is all-powerful, why not choose the mighty, the influential, or the naturally gifted? The answer reveals a profound truth about the nature of God and his relationship with humanity. The power in weakness. God's way of choosing people teaches us a crucial lesson. There is strength in weakness. The Bible consistently reinforces this idea that God's strength is made perfect in our human frailty. But why is that the case? Dependence on God. When someone recognizes their own limitations, they are more likely to depend entirely on God. Let's take Moses again. He knew he wasn't a great speaker, and that pushed him to rely on God's words and wisdom rather than his own abilities. This dependence isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually a gateway to experiencing God's power in ways we might never see if we thought we could do it all on our own. God's glory, not ours. Another significant reason God uses the weak is so that his power and glory are fully displayed. When David defeated Goliath, no one could say it was because of David's superior fighting skills. The victory was clearly God's doing. When the weak are used to accomplish great things, it becomes obvious that there is something bigger at work, a divine hand guiding the way. Humility transforms. Weakness often goes hand in hand with humility, and God can work wonders through a humble heart. Paul famously wrote in 2 Corinthians 12:9, "My grace is sufficient for you, For my power is made perfect in weakness. By embracing our flaws and admitting that we can't do everything ourselves, we open ourselves up to God's transforming power. This pattern of God using the weak demonstrates something fundamental about how He operates. He isn't looking for those with the most natural talent, status, or strength. He's looking for those who are willing to trust Him, even when they feel inadequate. It flips the script on our human tendency to admire strength, self-sufficiency, and success, reminding us that true power comes from God, not from within ourselves. What this means for us today. Now, let's bring this concept into our own lives. The truth is, many of us feel inadequate at some point or another, whether it's a lack of confidence, fear of failure, or feeling unqualified. We all have moments where we think, I'm not enough. But if history has taught us anything, it's that God isn't limited by our limitations. In fact, He often chooses to work through them. Your weakness isn't a disqualification. If you've ever thought, God can't use me, I'm to fill in the blank, think again. Moses, David, and Mary all had reasons to believe they weren't capable, but God saw something different in them. God doesn't need your perfection or your strength. He simply needs your willingness to say yes. Availability over ability. God values availability over ability. You might not have the best skills or the highest qualifications, but if you're open and willing, that's all God needs. The Bible is filled with stories of people who were simply willing to trust God even when they didn't fully understand how everything would work out. And guess what? That's still what He's looking for today. Weakness as a strength. Our culture often teaches us to hide our weaknesses or pretend they don't exist. But what if we saw our weaknesses as an opportunity for God to shine? When we acknowledge our limitations, we create space for God to do what only He can do. It's not about what you can't do. It's about what God can do through you. Remember, the same God who used Moses, David, and Mary is still at work today. He's still in the business of using ordinary people to do extraordinary things. And that includes you. Overcoming the fear of weakness. One of the greatest obstacles to stepping into God's plan for our lives is fear. Fear of failure, fear of inadequacy, fear of rejection. But here's the good news. God isn't asking you to be fearless. He's asking you to trust Him. Faith over fear. Think about Moses' story. When God called him, Moses was terrified. He had all kinds of excuses, but God's response wasn't, "You need to be braver." Instead, He reassured Moses, saying, "I will be with you." That same promise is true for us today. Whatever weaknesses or fears you're facing, God promises to be with you every step of the way. Courage, despite weakness. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to move forward despite the fear. When we step out in faith, God meets us in our weakness and shows His strength. That's what makes these moments so powerful. It's not about being the most confident person in the room. It's about trusting that God is in control. Transformation through faith. The process of overcoming fear and embracing weakness can be transformative. It's not just about the external results like defeating a giant or leading a nation. It's about what happens inside us as we trust God and watch Him work in ways we never imagined. So, why does God choose the weakest people to change history? Because in our weakness, His strength is revealed. God takes the overlooked, the unqualified, and the broken, and He does something extraordinary through them. The beauty of it all is that He can and will do the same with you if you're willing. If you found this message encouraging, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, share it with someone who might need this reminder, and of course, subscribe to City on a Mountain for more inspiring content. Together, let's embrace our weaknesses, knowing that God's strength is more than enough to carry us through. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video